Chair, is it okay if we start the housekeeping?
Yes, good afternoon. Please go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. Please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. Click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you are in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby. For meetings in other locations, please complete a blue speaker card and provide it to a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items, and times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. Word time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you are authorizing recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's Technology Committee meeting for South Coast Air Quality Management District. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can we do a roll call, please?
Supervisor Dole.
Here.
Supervisor Hagman. Here. Supervisor Locke Dawson.
Here.
Mayor McCallum is absent. Board Member Padilla Campos is absent. Chair Rodriguez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And just staff, if a part of the housekeeping, can you please clarify for everyone today's public comment duration, so we're all clear on that?
Yes, so the public comment period is going to be 3 minutes for each agenda item and then 3 minutes for the public comment period.
Fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and move on to action item 1. That item is transfer funds for commercial electric lawn and garden equipment incentive and exchange program. And we have a staff report. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. My name is Yujin Tan. I'm the program supervisor at the Technology Advancement Office. Today, I'll be presenting on agenda item number 1, where we are looking to transfer funds to be used in our commercial lawn and garden program. Next slide, please. So the South Coast AQMD has implemented the Commercial Electric Lawn and Garden Equipment Incentive and Exchange Program, ELNG program for short, since 2017, where old gasoline or diesel-powered commercial lawn and garden equipment is replaced with zero-emission equipment. In 2021, we received $2.1 million from the US EPA TAG grant to provide an incentive up to 50% toward the purchase of zero-emission commercial lawn and garden equipment. This funding, however, is limited to projects that's located within the Coachella Valley. Later in 2022, another $5 million was received from the Carl Moyer program to provide up to 85% incentive toward the purchase of zero-emission lawn and garden equipment. But this funding can be used for all areas within the South Coast AQMD jurisdiction, which includes the Coachella Valley. Next slide, please. With the 2 competing incentive funding, we have experienced extremely low interest in the US EPA grant funding since it only provides up to 50% incentive. The Carl Moyer program funding, however, on the other hand, since it provides the higher incentive amount of 85%, it has been very popular and is almost completely expended. Next slide, please. To increase interest in the Coachella Valley for the US EPA funding, staff is proposing to increase the incentive for the US EPA funding from 50% to 85%. Staff is also proposing to add up to $6 million to continue the ELNG program for all areas within the South Coast AQMD jurisdiction. Next slide, please. As the recommended action, staff is recommending to transfer up to $2.1 million to increase the incentive amount for the US EPA tag from 50% to 85%, and to authorize the executive officer to approve vouchers up to $6 million for lawn and garden equipment from the Carl Moyer program funds. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation, and just check if there's any questions from colleagues.
I'll move it when you get a chance, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And let's go to a public comment. Any public comment?
No public comment in the room, and I do not see any hands raised online.
Thank you. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We'll bring it back, and we have a motion from Supervisor Hagman. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Doe. And I'll just say that it's great to see our continued effort to provide resources on this great program, seeing if there'll be some additional participation in the Coachella Valley, as well as throughout our service area. So with that, we'll call for the vote, please.
Supervisor Doe,
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Mayor Lock Dawson,
Aye.
Mayor McCallum is absent, Board Member Padilla-Campos is absent, Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. We'll move on to item 2. Issue program announcement and execute contracts for Proposition 1B, Goods Movement Emissions Reduction Program. And we have a staff report. Please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, committee and chair. My name is Tom Lee, and this item is to issue a new program announcement and execute contracts for goods movement locomotive projects. Next slide, please. Okay, first a little background. Prop 1B is a state program for goods movement emission reduction. And since the program started in 2008, we have funded over $480 million on equipment like heavy-duty trucks, cargo handling equipment, locomotives, and shore power for ships. In the last couple of years, however, the program saw a high number of withdrawn projects, and we now have roughly $50 million of funding left. We have until June 30th, 2027 to liquidate all funds, or we may have to return the funds to CARB. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now heavy-duty trucks have always been the most successful category in this program, but they're no longer fundable now because older trucks targeted by this program are now off the road because of regulation. Now, locomotive projects, however, are the next logical category to focus on because uncontrolled locomotives are still out there operating. These locomotive projects are very expensive, so financial help would be needed for fleets to purchase them. They do offer the highest emission reduction, and they have long useful lives, so this emission reduction can be had for a long time in the South Coast Air Basin. Now, CARB recently issued a new executive order to increase funding amount, but only for zero emission. At the same time, they reduced the project life to 10 years instead of 15 years for diesel. This is intended to address concerns that zero emission technology like batteries and charging may have some limitations at this time, and they can still improve. Okay, so next slide, please. This funding table shows the amounts, how it depends on the technology and the size horsepower. Now, if the applicant stays with a Tier 4 replacement or repower, the funding amount is capped at $2.25 million. This amount has not changed from previous years, but as mentioned earlier, the executive order the CARB issued raised the zero emission amount. And as you can see, there's no cap if they go with a zero emission locomotive, either repower or replacement. Currently, the zero emission locomotives, battery electric, starts at about $6 million and up. So the award amount, each award can be expected to be about $4 million and up. Okay, next slide. So SAP is proposing to open a new Prop 1B program for goods movement locomotives. The applicant can choose to repower or replace with either Tier 4 or zero emission. As mentioned, zero emission projects will be prioritized, and they will receive a much higher funding amount and a shorter project life, as mentioned earlier. Okay, next slide. Staff recommends to issue a new program announcement in the goods movement locomotive category. This announcement program will begin accepting applications on April 9th on the online portal. And the second action is to execute contracts for eligible projects to obligate the remaining Prop 1B funds. This concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'll check to see if we have any comments from the committee.
I'll just say, Mr. Chair, that it's a great program. I mean, it's logical. And I love the fact that we can actually hopefully spur on newer technology with the funds that we're putting out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments? Okay, let's go to public comment, please. Do we have anyone in attendance or online?
Chair, we just have one hand raised online. That's calling user number 1.
Okay.
Hello, board members. This is Ranji George. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, Ranji, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman and the board members. I would like to comment. My name is Ranji George. I led the zero emission projects in the 90s with particular emphasis on battery and fuel cell technologies. We laid the foundation for those technologies for the rest of California and USA to follow. And I am still continue to be disappointed for the lack of funds for hydrogen powered technologies in many of these presentations, or if there are, there's not been mentioned. Please, I would urge staff and the board members to focus on hydrogen powered locomotives. It's coming up in Germany. I believe there's a San Bernardino line that's being run on hydrogen, but we should expand the application of hydrogen into other categories of locomotives and different categories. So I hope the board members continue to put pressure on staff to give preference to hydrogen fuel cells, because battery technologies are now kind of developed, but again, the major challenge is the battery recycling. Battery recycling factories would be one of the major sources of air pollution in the decades to come. So I urge you more transparency on the hydrogen part. Also, the second category is, hope the board member will ask from staff how many hydrogen projects have they supported compared to, let's say, batteries or natural gas technologies. And I would not be surprised if hydrogen gets only a fraction of the other technologies. So this is a very powerful, very important technology. Worldwide, it's been developed, and I hope South Coast won't fall behind. Once upon a time, we were the leaders in this country on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranji. Do we have any other comments, public comments?
We have one more public commenter, Harvey Eder.
Okay. Good afternoon, Harvey.
Hi there. Howdy. Am I being heard?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm Harvey Eder, and I'm speaking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition, and for Equitable Just Solar Transition ASAP. Thank you, Ranji, for your comments, and we support them. But I think it's important, since historically hydrogen has been made out of natural gas, etc. And there was state law saying it had to be so much made out of solar, that be continued and that distinction be made. And whenever they're referring, like, to, this clean and renewable natural gas, and they've never looked at PM 2.5 and toxics, that's dangerous stuff. Okay, that's omission. That's cover up. Now, Ranji has made some comments supporting what's been going on with us, and we greatly appreciate it. Now, he included in it that he agreed with us that, this limiting of 3 minutes to each item, taking that away and making it 3 for the whole agenda and then 3 for public comments is not cool. And he went and expanded on it recently and said, the scientific method that happened in the West, he goes, it did not happen in China. It did not happen in India. It happened here because you have freedom of speech and dissenting opinions, and it should be open. So some people like me, we got 30 years experience. It's an educated guess. You got to hear. And we're so, and I just know for the first time this committee cited, and I'd like to know the decision-making process, and if I could be sent hard copy, that 3 minutes will be given on each item. So I'd like to congratulate you on that, but that not stop there. That has to be gone as a policy to the board for all committees, and to stand up to the implications of this for other state law, and we've got to improve on it. There's a lot of things that are being stifled, like records of meetings, tapes, and transcripts, and you can't go back other than 24. Anyway. We can do better. Thank you very much, Ranji. Thank you very much, committee. I'll make comments and enjoy this little piece of freedom of speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. Any other public comments?
No additional public comment.
I'll move the item, Hagman.
Thank you, Supervisor. Do we have a second?
Mark Dawson, seconds.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for discussion, I asked staff, can you clarify on the project types that we have, the Tier 4 switcher locomotive, and there's 4 that were highlighted project types in the presentation. The question about hydrogen in the project types, was that a constraint of the grants, pre-existing grants, or was maybe shed some light on that approach?
Yeah, so just for clarification, in the presentation that Tom just gave, there's 75% of the cost, no cap on the zero emission locomotives. And that includes both battery electric and hydrogen technologies. So it's agnostic to the zero emission technology there. And I just want to note for the comment for public record here is that we have the biggest locomotive project in the nation to develop a liquid hydrogen fuel cell locomotive. That was awarded to us through CalSTA for Wabtec. And then the recent awards to Metrolink also for the zero emission passenger rail locomotives, those are still being decided whether they're going to be battery electric or fuel cell. So I would say that we spend about 50% of our funds here in the tech committee right now on fuel cell technologies.
Thanks for that clarification. I think just for the record, to really clarify the significant broad scope of investments, including hydrogen, that we're pursuing. And that includes, for the record, this item before us. So I appreciate staff clarifying that. And we'll just go ahead and call for the vote. Thank you.
Supervisor Doan?
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman?
Hagman, aye.
Mayor Lock Dawson?
Aye.
Mayor McCallum is absent. Board Member Padilla-Campos is absent. Chair Rodriguez?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Thank you, colleagues. We'll go to other business, item 3. Any additional items, colleagues, for our consideration or staff? Okay. Seeing none. Going once, twice. Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you. Our public comment period, item 4. Anything that wasn't on previously on the agenda. You have 3 minutes. Do we have any comments?
We have two hands raised. The first is Mark Abramowitz.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, Mark. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today is, this meeting is Paul Wright's last meeting. And I just wanted to take a moment to say something. You know, if you ask me what the backbone of the agency is, I'm not going to say the chair. I'm not going to say the executive officer. I'll say the guy that makes everything happen. And that's really been Paul for a number of decades. And I wanted to acknowledge his tremendous contribution and his dedication to excellence over the years. I first met Paul in 1997, where I was where the district had moved to Diamond Bar, and I was part of an organization that wanted to put on an international conference around an IBM operating system called OS2, which is still around. And we had an international conference, and in 97, and Paul really helped us turn that into a very successful event. We had over 400 people at the district, and I'll never forget how Paul made that event just work so perfectly. And he's done the same for other events at the district that board members usually don't hear about. Paul's been a tremendous help to me over the years, whether I was working for an organization, whether I was a board consultant, or on through now. And I think everybody can say that about Paul. And there's just one person really that has always made things happen over the last several decades, and that's Paul Wright. And I really applaud his contribution to the district and to clean air over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that well-deserved praise for Paul. Do we have any additional public comments today?
And there's one more commenter, Ranji George.
Okay, thank you. Ranji, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, board members. This is Ranji George. I just want to respond to staff's comment on the hydrogen funding. Yes, maybe in the technology budget, which is a very small budget compared to the incentive fundings, maybe there's an attempt to have hydrogen projects on the agenda, but we don't know how many actually are being funded. They have plans, a lot of program announcements being neutral between battery and hydrogen fuel cells, but we don't get any reports how many are after the program announcement issued and projects received, how many of those fall into those two categories. Last 20, 25 years, when I've been commenting on this, and others have been commenting, we have seen natural gas projects and battery projects taking 90% line share of those projects. And this includes, by the way, incentive funding. I'm putting incentive fundings into it. Almost everything from incentive funding is going to natural gas nowadays to batteries. And every 2 or 3 years, there's a cycle in legislation how to develop the rules for incentive funding. And these rules always discriminate against the hydrogen. For example, cost effectiveness. Now, cost effectiveness, being economist, I have 3 time frames: cost effectiveness in the short run, in the immediate term, or long run. And we do that even with all our investment portfolios and many of the career-making decisions. And and I urge the board members, when these incentive funds come, to put tremendous pressure on ARB and others to put hydrogen as much weight or give preference. In the past, people have given preference to technologies. So in the same way, to give preference to hydrogen in the incentive funding. So if you put incentive funding and technology funding together, you would see that in the past, hydrogen has given a minuscule amount, relatively speaking, and that's why it's lagging so behind the other technologies. I would appreciate if you can continue to relentlessly pursue hydrogen fuel cells, because that's the one that will truly clean this air, and we don't have to rely on OPEC. We just have to drain the oceans with solar power and get hydrogen from the oceans and that thing. So no more of these dependence on fossil fuels. That thing. So it's a great source of energy for us, cleaner source. So thank you. I'd appreciate if you look into this incentive funding issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Do we have any other comments today?
Chair, we have one more public commenter, Harvey Eder.
Thank you. Hello, Harvey.
Hello,
Can hear you?
Yes, am I being heard?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon or whatever. I'm in a local Jack in the Box, so they're playing music. It might be hard to hear me right now. Anyway, not too long ago, I heard Ranji put out an idea related to equity, like you have contacts with the board and I guess committees representing the South, and he can tell us more about this, but on the whole concept of equity in the solar transition, to deal with climate and reaching our ecological limits. It's extremely important that this 617 program that went out by act out of the White House and whatnot, that they said 40%, but they're only talking about trying to clean the air in 617 low and middle poor communities and racial discrimination, etc. Class analysis. So equity, key bono. Not only do you get cleaner air, but who gets over? Who benefits? Who owns this? Who controls? Who makes the decisions? And that got to go as quickly as possible, both energy and resources, as locally as we can get, and as renewably, sustainably, etc. But all of those industries, as they're developed, and we've been saying this for 45 years when we were consultants of the PUC on the Low-Income Solar Equity Project, working with the first Black commissioner of the PUC, Lennon Grimes' ancestors started the 54th that the movie Glory is about. All right? This stuff has to be done now, locally, in this district, in this state, and in this nation. And that number has to be for ownership and control. Public power is 20% less. It's the most cost effective. That's the way to go. Anyway, also it has to be doubled, at least 80%. And we could talk about the 10-20% for a yardstick corporation known by the state or the county or whatnot. And if there's any involvement with other co-ops and institutions, universities for patents, copyrights, and whatnot. So we cannot mess around. According to the IEA in 21, the International Energy Agency, of all of the stuff that went in, primarily solar, 60% was owned by fossil fuel companies. We cannot let that happen and continue. That's what's going on. And at the same time, they're bad-mouthing it and saying we're raising the price of fossil fuels, making it tougher on poor people. Just to make it cost effective, they're controlling the whole damn thing. The market is taken over. That's it. The Sunshot Program, which you all ignored, the state ignored, EPA ignored.
Okay, well, thank you, Harvey. Do we have any other public comments today?
No additional public comment.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring things back for our conclusion for today's meeting. Just a couple of things. Again, on behalf of our committee and our governing board, certainly appreciate tremendous contributions from Paul Wright, and all our best wishes moving forward. And again, thank you for your legacy of service. Also, I wanted to just ask staff, as appropriate moving forward, as we do any annual reporting relative to our programs. To the degree we can provide some additional clarity on hydrogen projects for our awareness and edification. To continue to do that, that would be great. And with that said, our next scheduled meeting will be Friday, April 19th at 12 o'clock. Colleagues, thank you for your continued commitment. Appreciate staff's efforts. Want to wish everyone a wonderful rest of the day and a great weekend. Thanks again. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks,
Meeting is
everybody.
adjourned.
Have a great
Thank you.
day.